Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, he, she, we, they, me, Melly 3E, also known as Mel Media, bring you my very first reaction slash review and the movie that I have the pleasure of doing this to the bars. The movie Ryan Coogler's Sinners. First, let me say this. I was very excited about this movie. Ever since I seen the first trailer come out, like a year ago. So I've really been waiting for this movie. So the date is 4/18/2025. I went to go see it yesterday, which was Thursday, 4/17, at a 9:30 showing. Because I was so excited and I didn't want to see any spoilers. And also because I plan to see the movie Warfare today, which I'll give a reaction slash review to that probably later on or the next day. So as of right now, my reactions are a couple hours late, not necessarily a day, but a couple hours late. I did want to review this movie as soon as I got home, but as soon as I got home, it was like 12, and I was like, let me just sleep on it as opposed to kind of do like a first reaction, because it could be a little bit biased. Okay, so first of all, there's a lot of people. This movie has a lot of praise, right? Now, there are some people calling this movie a masterpiece. There are some people saying that this movie is really, really good. And then there are some people that are saying, it's a good movie, but it's kind of missing something, or it just barely misses the 9 or the 10 mark. And I'm one of the people, I think I'm a little bit in between, okay? Now, with that being said, Sinners is a very unique movie. You can't really say, anybody says this is a bad movie, then yeah, you need to you need to evaluate their opinion. This movie, however, is very unique in the sense that I feel like it's almost teetering masterpiece, but at the same time there's something holding it back from being a masterpiece and kind of keeping it at the good level. Now, I'm not gonna explain really what the movie is, because I kind of want this to be short and quick and concise. So I'll pretty much give my reactions and my review of certain things of the movie, right? And I'll probably address some criticisms. So one of the criticisms is this: is this a woke movie? No, it is not. Okay, anybody saying this movie is woke or it's about racism and white people bad. First of all, the movie is in 1932 Jim Crow era in Mississippi. Like, there's no way this movie could be authentic without that in it. That's pretty dumb. Like, that's a pretty dumb critique of a movie of this time period, because this movie is ultimately a timepiece also. Saying that this movie feels like two movies mashed together is one of the criticisms that I've seen, and I think I have to completely agree. When I first saw it, I was in the movie theaters and I had to take myself out the mindset of, okay, when are the vampires going to come in? And I literally told myself as I watched this movie, and I just sat back and I let the movie take me for a ride, and I enjoyed the ride. Ultimately, those criticisms are very valid. This movie does feel like two movies mashed together. You have, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I like both. I kind of like both movies. If they were to, I would go see both movies. But however, it does kind of show that one side of the movie may have been a better movie than the other. Like, to me, what this kind of feels like is Ryan Coogler wanted to make a movie about maybe like the Jim Crow era, prohibition, a little bit of like mob ties in it, and then also about like blues music. And I honestly would have seen that movie too, but it kind of feels like Warner Brothers was like, no. And Ryan Coogler was like, okay, how about if I threw vampires in it? And Warner Brothers was like, okay, yeah, go ahead and make the movie. That's what this feels like. It feels like he had a direction and he wanted to make a certain movie, but he probably couldn't get the funding, and it probably wasn't interesting enough for these, bigger companies to give him the money for it. So ultimately he had to pitch in an idea that maybe would draw more audiences, which is the vampire aspect of this movie. So I do 100% agree. This does feels like two movies mashed together. Now, with that being said, which part do I think is the better movie? Well, obviously, it feels like Ryan Coogler, he cared more about the characters, the world building, and kind of like the deeper story, which is like the music and religion. aspects of this movie, which is the very first half of the movie that we get introduced to this. And so it does feel like a little bit more care was taken with that as opposed to the vampire section. Now the vampire section is very true. It's very true to the lore. It doesn't really break anything. It doesn't kind of make up things. It's very true to the lore. Almost to the point where it's kind of like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, the vampires haven't figured this out yet, still. You know what I mean? Now, it is 1932, but still, like, y'all can't figure out a way to, So, it is kind of, like, hilarious in that aspect. Excuse me. With that being said, I have to say, I really like the vampire aspect of it. I think that's the exciting part of the movie. But I kind of think I like the world building and the character building first, which was the first half of the movies when the smoke, what is it, the smokestack twins are kind of gathering people because they're trying to build a juke joint, and so they're trying to gather their friends and stuff to make a sign, make food, perform. And I really like that aspect of the movie. And like I said, I would have seen that movie even if it didn't have the vampires in it. So with that being said, performances were brilliant. They were excellent. Everybody did a phenomenal job. Let me see. I had to look up some names, but basically the actor who played Preacher, was it Preacher Boy or Preacher's Son? I can't remember. Basically the actor who played him, this is his very first movie. He knocked it out the park. Man, he really killed it. Who was Michael B. Jordan was actually really good in this movie, which I expected, but he shows us why he's a good actor. And there was like I said, the cast was perfect. I felt a sense of weight with all the characters. Like, all the characters were just kind of like, lovable people that you would want to be around and that you would want to protect. So ultimately, that cast did a phenomenal job. The music was excellent. Like I said, I think the vampire designs I also really liked. And Mississippi in the South is this film. I think they said that Ryan Coogler shot this in IMAX. This film is very beautiful to look at. Like, it's a gorgeous looking film. And I really loved it. If there was any negatives, I would say watching this movie before I seen like all the reactions, right? There was a certain part in this movie, and I don't want to spoil it, but I will say this, right? There's a kind of an aspect that if it's actually kind of real, in which people say like kind of music kind of creates like certain energies, whether it's good energies or bad energies, right? And so there's an aspect that's explained in the film where certain artists or music can basically create like or open up the veil between different timelines and worlds. So it can go to the past, but it can also go to the future. I seen this part before I watched all the reviews, and so I kind of agree with Angry Joe and Alex, right, when they said that this part was kind of this part was weird. Seeing this part in a theater was very, very off-putting, and it comes out of nowhere. And so when people compare this movie from Dusk Till Dawn, a lot of people saying Dusk Till Dawn is the better movie. I would argue this movie is way better focused, and it's a better story than Dusk Till Dawn. I think Dusk Till Dawn does the vampire action better, but as far as movies go, I think this is probably by far a way better movie. Dusk Till Dawn is just a little bit more fun. It's more fun, and I think the action and the vampire aspect is a little bit done better. Now, with that being said, this movie does have a Dusk Till Dawn moment where I'm like, whoa, like this is way off. Like, I did not expect this. This is going off the rails. And when this part comes up, you'll know what I'm talking about when it comes up. But I can see a lot of people not liking this part. And me, I'm still trying to fathom whether or not I liked it. I remember when I first seen it, I said, yo, what the hell is going on? and I almost laughed too, because it was so outlandish and kind of goofy. But when I kind of sat back and like, okay, let's see where they go with this, it was still kind of goofy. But I kind of got the vision and I kind of understood it. But I feel like this aspect would have worked better if it was kind of showing like maybe old spirits and only from the past as opposed to going into the future, because they show something. All right, I'm a spoil it. I'm gonna spoil it. So if you don't want to hear this part, you probably want to skip. I'll write it in the video. But spoilers, okay? So basically, what happens is the preacher's why I keep forgetting his name, preacher boy or preacher son. Basically, he's performing and his music is really good, and he basically is one of these people that can kind of open up the veil between different worlds, right? And so in order to show that, we get a narration as he's singing, and then out of nowhere we just start seeing like different cultures from different times, right? So you get like the 80s, they like break dancing with Kango's on. You get a DJ from the 80s, he's on the ones and twos. I'm like, yo, where did they even get the stage from? I'm like, where did he even get, he on the ones and twos? And then you got like kind of like, I guess like Asian culture, which is like Chinese people doing like their interpretive dancing. You got black people from, I'm guessing 2000s, I don't know, twerking in the corner. It's a lot. It's a lot. And when they're twerking, of course they have like our clothes from our time period on. So all of these people have clothes from their time period. So it looks weird because there were people from the 1930s, 1930s. And so once I let the scene play out a little bit more, I did like how they mixed the music, because it's a blues song that preacher son is singing, but ultimately it gets remixed, with 80s and African music. Oh yeah, they show like African tribes that are there dancing. And so it's a very unique scene, and it's a very risky take that I'm not sure I would have taken. But then again, I'm not Ryan Coogler, so I could really see this being super hit or miss. I don't think there's an in-between with this. I think you either really like it or you really don't. And I'm gonna just get straight to it. I highly recommend it. This is a film that you need to go see in the movie theaters, and it was shot for IMAX. And I wanted to go to the IMAX, but I was tired, so I took a nap. And by the time I woke up, the only showing that I could have seen was the 9:30, which was standard. Now, it wasn't very noticeable until like there was one scene where, the action opened up, and I was like, oh, okay, I could definitely see this needing a wider screen for this. So, yeah, like my only criticisms are, the vampire aspects, which I wish we would have had a little bit more, and I wish there was a little bit more action, because like I said, I think this movie narratively is stronger, way stronger than Dusk Till Dawn. However, Dusk Till Dawn has really exciting action, and the action in this movie was okay. It wasn't bad, but it felt like it could have been a little bit tighter and shot better and a little bit more stylized and realistic at the same time, because some characters make some dumb choices. And also there was a point where I'm like, wow, they ain't ran out of bullets yet. Like, what is I'm like, they got automatics? What's going on, man? I thought it was a lever action. What's going on, man? So yeah, but with that being said, there is a really cool action scene at the very end that was like, whoa, I wish we could have got more of that. Like, I would have seen that movie. And it's at the very end. So yeah, not to spoil anything, but all in all, I highly recommend this film, and I'm kind of glad I waited a day to basically review this, because I think I would have gave it like a 9 out of 10 just from first seeing it, but like kind of sleeping on it. I think this movie is probably an 8.5. It's around an 8 to an 8.5 out of 10. I would say 8.5. Do I think this is Ryan Coogler's best movie? Maybe. I mean, I really like the Creed series, especially Creed 2. I love Creed 2. And then, of course, Black Panther. And I actually like Wakanda Forever. So, I don't know yet. I will have to sleep on that also. I don't know if this is his best film yet. I mean, you can make an argument. You can definitely make an argument that this is his best film. but this is his original vision, so I do have to give credit to where credit is due. So maybe it is his best film since it's his own vision. But with that being said, to me, Sinners is a 8.5 out of 10, and I highly recommend you to go see this in the movie cinemas near you. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, he, she, we, they, me, Melly 3E, wishing you peace, love, and tranquility. If you like the video, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. We try to do this on the daily. And with that being said, peace. Hold up. And just to add a little bit extra, like I said, I do these reactions / reviews off the dome. So like I'm pretty much, there's no written notes. It's all going off of memory so it can be more authentic. With that being said, I also forgot to mention this. Let me go back to the Dusk Till Dawn comparisons, right? Which is what this movie is ultimately going to be compared to. I think this movie's strongest thing is also its biggest weakness, which is that this movie is juggling kind of too many stories at once. And I think the reason why Dusk Till Dawn works so well is because it's a singular story that it doesn't do much, so that it's able to kind of cater towards the crazy side, which is the vampire side. Whereas this movie it has a lot to hit, and it has a lot of points and stories that it wants to tell and make. But ultimately, when you do that, you kind of take away from certain aspects of the film. And so when people say that Dusk Till Dawn is the better movie, like I said before, I think Dusk Till Dawn is probably the better action vampire movie. I think people are looking for this to be an action vampire movie, and that's why they say Dusk Till Dawn is better. However, narratively, I think even though this movie it juggles more, I still think it's stronger. Like I said before, I still think it's a stronger narrative. It might not be as focused as I said earlier. I said it was focused. It might not be it's definitely not as focused as Dusk Till Dawn is, but I think it has more on its plate. It takes more of a risk, and I think I'm willing to give more of the risk reward as opposed to Dusk Till Dawn, which is a very easy story to kind of translate and throw vampires into. So with that being said, I still like both films. Like Dusk Till Dawn is like a classic. I think it's considered a cult classic actually, which is crazy. But yeah, I think both films are fantastic. Now time will tell which one is better. But obviously people are gonna go to Dusk Till Dawn because it's the older film, Tarantino, and it's just, you know what I mean. It's a classic film. And then also I forgot to mention this earlier. We were introduced to some really cool Native American people that were never shown again. Like when we first were introduced to these people, I kind of got goosebumps, man. I got chills, man. They pulled up, man. Oh man, you got to see the film. But yeah, so it's a lot that this movie has in it, and I wish we could have got more. I just wish we could have got more of the lore and more, certain aspects of the vampire part, because like I said, we were introduced to these cool Native American characters who I guess they're vampire hunters, and we never see them again. We don't see them at the end of the film. We just see them, towards the beginning, and they're like I said, they're really cool. They're really stuck. I would have loved to see, their backstory and what they do. Hopefully, we may get a spinoff of that. I would love to see that. You introduce some aspects and you kind of forget about them, or you don't expand upon them. Now, like I said, I don't know if this movie is going to have a sequel. Some people say the way it ended, no, but when I saw the mid-credit scene, I definitely could see them trying it, because there is a way that they could do it. And it's, like I said, it's very spoiler, so I'm not going to say it, but there is a way that they could make another film. But it just, I don't know if Ryan Coogler would want to, and then ultimately WB could throw the bag at him and be like, hey, go make it, and then it'll be a Joker filet of Deuce situation where he's like, I ain't want to make it, so I'm gonna just make it as trash as possible. Hopefully not. I also think that I think the major criticisms of this movie are probably going to come from the action sequences, like I mentioned before. If this movie has stronger action sequences with the vampires, easily seeing this being better than Dusk Till Dawn. and probably being like one of the better vampire movies that we've seen in a while. But because the vampire action is kind of like on the weaker side, I think it's gonna knock it down a couple points for some people. And also, I think it was reported that this movie was 3 hours, but WB told Ryan Coogler to cut it down. I'm gonna have to say I think we kind of needed them 3 hours, man. I wish we would have got a little bit more of the Smokestack twins. You know, I wish we could have seen them in Chicago, just seeing like one job or something. So, you know, that could have gave us a little action sequence and to show us why they wanted to come back down. I do think the movie even though it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes, I still think it needed a little bit more time just to expand upon these things and fully flesh out the story and you know, details of the characters and some of the lore and stuff. But yeah, with that being said, I still think this is a great movie. I still think this is a great movie.